And hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining today's Multifamily Waste Reduction and Recycling Program webinar. We're happy that you're able to join us today. And as Larissa had mentioned, we will be posting this webinar on our website for you to access at any point in the future. We have a lot of great information to be providing you today. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. At this time, I would now like to introduce Ms. Eileen Kao. Ms. Kao is the Chief of the Waste Reduction and Recycling Section in the Recycling and Resource Management Division in the Department of Environmental Protection. Ms. Kao has been with the county for over 30 years in this section, providing outreach, education, training, and technical assistance across all of the sectors. Eileen oversees the outreach and education programs for recycling and waste reduction, the multifamily waste reduction recycling program, the non-residential or commercial business recycling and waste reduction program, the county's recycling volunteer program, yard trim reduction of yard trim materials, the food scraps recycling program, and the recycling investigations unit. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Eileen Kao. Eileen?
Thanks, Alan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. You know, recycling and reducing waste are really long-standing high priorities here in Montgomery County. Our waste reduction and recycling programs cover all of the aspects and all of the segments of the county, including our single-family residents, our multifamily properties, as well as our commercial sector, the businesses, the nonprofit organizations, and also our government facilities at every level, local, state, as well as federal. I want to start by going through an overview of the county. Sorry, just waiting for the slides to advance. All right. So here in Montgomery County, across our almost 500 square miles, we do have about 730 multifamily properties. That's the combination of condominium properties, apartment properties, as well as a few co-ops. And together, the multifamily properties have about 140,000 dwelling units. We also have in Montgomery County approximately 220,000 single-family homes and townhouses. And we have about 33,000 businesses. And again, when I say business, I really mean anything not residential in nature, that together have almost 550,000 employees. So all told in my section, we have an audience or a customer base that we serve of over 1.5 million residents and employees living and working here in Montgomery County. So what is our goal? Here in Montgomery County, we have for many years, for decades, we have had formal goals for our recycling efforts. And right now, what we have is a goal to reduce waste and recycle more while aiming for zero waste. So how are we doing? We're doing very, very well. And that is a testimonial to all of the great efforts in recycling that people living and working here in Montgomery County together are making. And I'm happy to say that for the calendar year 2020, Montgomery County is #1 in the state of Maryland. We are first place. We are recycling with the highest recycling rate in the state of Maryland for all of the jurisdictions, all the counties, and the city of Baltimore. So this is really a great thing, and we applaud everyone living and working in the county, because together we have been able to achieve this. We have a recycling rate of 58.94%, and we have a waste diversion rate of 63.94%. So that is absolutely wonderful. So let's look at the sources of waste here in Montgomery County. As we take a look at this slide, I wanted to point out some very interesting things that we've seen. So in the year 2020, we have seen a decrease in the amount of waste that was generated overall in Montgomery County. But we also have seen a shift in what sector created what portion of that waste. And remember, I think here in Montgomery County in March of 2020, things really changed up on us. And that is really when COVID and the pandemic situation really came into focus. And you can see here, we did see a shift. Prior to 2020, we had pretty consistently seen that the commercial sector was generating the majority of the waste in Montgomery County. Well, what we're seeing now in looking at all of the data is that actually in 2020, there was a shift. And in 2020, the majority of the waste generated in Montgomery County ended up being generated by the commercial sector. The combination of the single family homes and townhomes plus the multifamily apartments and condos together. And it makes sense. You know, we saw a shutdown, kind of a shutting down of everything for a while, actually. A lot of the commercial sector just shut down completely, suddenly for a duration. We saw stay-at-home orders issued by the governor, so people were really staying at home and generating more waste at home than in the business community. Now, in terms of recycling, we've also broken out each of the individual recycling rates by sector. So our single family residential homes and townhomes together, they recycled about 58% of the waste that they created. The commercial sector, out of the waste that they did create in 2020, about 63.6% of that material was recycled. And then in the multifamily sector, we saw that of the waste that was generated at apartments and condos, 28.3% of that material was recycled. So the multifamily sector is improving year by year, but we really need your help. We need everyone's participation and support. And really, we need everyone to reduce waste and recycle more. So what are we doing? What are we doing to increase the opportunities for folks to reduce waste and recycle more? Well, the next frontier material for us is food scraps. And so we've been doing quite a bit over the past couple of years to really focus on ways to reduce the amount of food that's wasted, and also to create additional opportunities and methods to recycle food scraps that can no longer be consumed. What we've been doing, we've increased our education and our outreach to reduce wasted food. If any of you get the Washington Post, today is Wednesday, and it is the day of the week when in the Post there is a food section. And included in the food section, there are advertisements for different grocery stores. But you may have noticed, I hope you've noticed, that over the past couple of weeks, and perhaps even today, that there is an 8.5 by 11-inch flyer that is actually from us. And it has recommendations and tips on how to reduce the amount of wasted food that you may have created in the past. We have also created and convened a working group that we call the Edible Food Recovery Working Group. And this group is really focused on trying to increase the amount of edible food that commercial generators of food scraps are generating, anything that is edible, we really want to take a close look at how we can encourage and increase the amount of that edible food that is then channeled to and provided to organizations that distribute food to folks in our community here in Montgomery County that are living with food insecurity. We've implemented our commercial food scraps recycling partnership program, where we're working very closely with generators, commercial generators of food scraps, and we are helping them to start up, develop their programs in-house or on-site to separate their food scraps that can no longer be consumed, and to have that material transported to a processing facility where it's then used and turned into a new product, a compost material. We're also piloting our curbside collection of food scraps for the single family homes. We're doing this currently in 2 small areas. One small area is in Silver Spring. The other one is in the Potomac area. And what we're doing is we are really trying to test out, and we are collecting a lot of data, information, and feedback from the participants. And we're going to be using that information as we move forward and start to plan and design a program for countywide implementation one day of curbside collection of food scraps from our single family homes. We're also testing and evaluating, with the help of 500 volunteers, residents that are living here in Montgomery County. We are testing out the use of backyard compost bins that would be appropriate for use with composting not just grass and leaves and garden trimmings, but also composting with food scraps in backyards. And so we are really being careful. We're trying out 2 models of these backyard compost bins to see whether or not they are in fact rodent proof and are adequate and are efficient or effective in making sure that rodents and critters that might be attracted to food scraps actually do not appear and cause any issues or problems. And we're also trying to see, and also how effective are these particular types of bins in backyard composting of food scraps materials. So we're doing an awful lot in the area of food scraps, so stay tuned. We're also working with multifamily properties to try and, again, help them set up programs within their multifamily properties to separate and divert food scraps to be sent to a composting facility where it can then be recycled into new material, new compost. Some of the other things that we are also doing in order to further reduce waste and recycle more, we have implemented a ban on the use and the sale of all number 6 plastic, polystyrene, food serviceware, and packing peanuts. There are better alternatives to these number 6 plastics. Unfortunately, number 6 polystyrene plastics that is a material that is really problematic. We cannot recycle that material. It's a material that's very difficult to actually recycle. And part of that is because there is not a very strong demand for recycling of number 6 plastics, because there really isn't a very fulsome variety of materials or products that are made from recycled polystyrene plastic. So we've done a lot of research, and we know that there are recyclable alternatives. There are also compostable alternatives to polystyrene food serviceware. So with this ban, we're saying to food service businesses, and we're saying to retailers, you cannot use these number 6 plastic polystyrene food serviceware items. We're saying to retailers, you can't sell them. but instead you have to use or sell food service ware that is instead either reusable, compostable, or recyclable here in Montgomery County. Similarly, we've instituted a straw ban. And so at this point, when you go into any dining service, any restaurant, any cafeteria, any food service business, you can still request a straw. But these restaurants, these food service businesses, they are no longer going to be just simply blanketing you and your fellow diners with straws. Straws are provided to customers upon request. And the straws that are provided have to be either reusable, home compostable, or marine degradable. Again, and the reason is for this is because plastic straws are problematic. They're a problematic material. Straws that are made from plastics are not recyclable. And so instead, we know that there are straws that are made out of other materials that are much better for the environment. Either reusable, they may be made out of metal or glass or silicone plastic, or home compostable straws made out of, for example, paper. They're even making straws. There are some very, very smart folks who just are coming up with these just very sharp ideas, very smart ideas. They're making straws out of hay. They're making straws out of pasta. They're making straws out of rice. And so, there are just a whole host of different alternatives that are better for the environment. And some of those straws also are marine degradable. So that means that they will break down when in the presence of H2O. The caveat, since we contemplated this ban or restriction on plastic straws, one thing that we recognized from the very outset is that for some folks in our community, it is really a necessity that they utilize a plastic straw. That might be because perhaps they've got a medically related need for a plastic straw, or maybe because of a disability situation, a plastic straw is what they really need to be able to use. So for that reason, food service businesses, restaurants, dining facilities, and the like, they must maintain a supply of plastic straws in order to meet those special needs. So if, for example, you find yourself at a restaurant or dining facility and someone in your group or party has one of those needs for specifically a plastic straw, go ahead and specifically request that, and the food service business must be able to comply with your request and must not ask any additional questions or any details of you. So, what more can you do at your property to help your residents reduce waste and recycle more? Well, there are a lot of things. I mean, first and foremost, there are ways that you can help residents to reduce the amount of waste that they create to begin with. But in addition, you can help by providing additional opportunities for residents to recycle more materials. Some of those materials are electronic items and batteries that run those items, food scraps, as I mentioned earlier, textiles, for example, clothing that can no longer be worn, carpeting that's being maybe replaced, that type of thing. Also, try to do everything possible to maintain the cleanliness of your refuse and recycling collection areas. That's actually something that is very much necessary in accordance with our county laws to maintain the cleanliness of the refuse and recycling collection areas. But furthermore, the cleaner you keep those areas and the more tidy you keep those areas, the more conducive it will be for residents to help make sure that when they bring their trash, when they bring their recyclables, they help to maintain the cleanliness of the areas. It also helps when you keep those areas clean and clear of debris and other materials. It helps to ensure that there's adequate capacity of the existing containers that you've got for both trash, refuse, as well as for recyclables. It's a really important aspect, because when we are asking folks to recycle as much as possible, recycle everything that they can recycle, it's incumbent on us to make sure that we're providing enough capacity in the containers to hold those materials and store those materials up, awaiting the collection trucks to come and pick that material up and take it away to the proper facility. Also, please ensure that your container labels, your posters, and your signage are all up to date. It's very important to let folks know, to let residents know what they can and cannot do with their different types of materials. So it's very helpful that way to make sure everything's properly signed, marked, and labeled. And what else can you do? Please, please, please be sure to provide education and outreach to all of your residents, to everyone on your property, about what your property is doing in terms of reducing waste and recycling. That's the only way that people will know what appropriately to do with their materials and to ensure that they are recycling correctly. So that includes everything from when you've got new residents that are moving in, letting them know right at the beginning what your property has set up in terms of a recycling program and what they can and must do to recycle. And then, everybody is really busy these days. So it really is so beneficial to provide periodic reminders to your residents about recycling and recycling right. We also are always here to help. And so anything that you might need, please let us know. We are here to help and we want to help. So we are all in this effort together. So please talk to us, let us know, and take us up on all of our different offers to provide outreach, education, and technical assistance to you. So thank you. Thanks again. We have a great program ahead. Thank you for joining us, and I really hope that you pick up a lot of great information today. Now I have the pleasure of introducing Ruth Carbonell. Ruth has been with our Recycling and Resource Management Division for more than 9 years. Actually, I met Ruth probably by now about 11 years ago, or maybe a little longer ago than that, because she first started as one of our recycling volunteers. And that's how I first met Ruth, and she came to know about our recycling programs here in the waste reduction and recycling section. Then she joined me as a program specialist, a recycling education specialist on the multi-family recycling program. And then she actually served for, I think, a couple of years as an inspector elsewhere in the division. And she was focused on single-family collection of recyclables. And then in January of 2020, we promoted Ruth to program manager of the multifamily waste reduction and recycling program. So she serves as the program manager, and she directs the day-to-day activities of this program, overseeing outreach, education, technical assistance, overseeing a staff of 2 recycling education specialists, and working directly with the multifamily properties, the condominium properties and apartment properties on this great effort to reduce waste and recycle more. please join me in welcoming Bruce.
Thank you so much, Eileen, and thank you for giving us this great presentation. I almost feel like I can go home now after your presentation. You pretty much cover everything I wanted to say. But it's a pleasure for me also to introduce Keith Crashfield. Mr. Crashfield is a recycling investigator for the Montgomery County Department of Environmental Protection, Division of Recycling and Resource Management. And he has been with the Division of Recycling and Resource Management for over 22 years. And he has been also an employee of Montgomery County for over 32 years. Mr. Crashfield works in the Recycling Investigations Unit to ensure all multifamily and commercial businesses have at least an adequate recycling and solid waste program on site in full compliance with the county's recycling regulations, such as the Executive Regulation E-15 and the Executive Regulation 18-04. In addition, ensures compliance with Montgomery County's solid waste codes, Chapter 48, as well as Bill 41-14, Bill 32-20, and Bill 3320. Some of the ones that you just we review with Eileen. Mr. Crashfield is involved in investigation enforcement activities to interpret the recycling and solid waste regulation codes and legislation, and to measure the extent of problems against these requirements, to design and implement appropriate solutions, identify issues, and provide recommendations for compliance. Please help me to welcome Keith as he presents to us today. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Ruth, for that great introduction. First of all, I hope everybody can hear me all right. I'm having a little issues with my computer too. So Ruth, can you give me a thumbs up if my volume is coming out in okay? First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for being here and giving me this opportunity to give you a brief overview of our recycling and solid waste enforcement program. By you being here today and participating, it gives me the opportunity to hopefully give you a better understanding of what it's going to take to make sure your property is in compliance of all our recycling and solid waste laws. But first and foremost, it gives you the opportunity to make sure that I don't do one of my famous visits to some of y'all property manager's office where I have my pad and paper and they're like, oh Lord, what does Keith want now? So hopefully I can, make sure that y'all doing everything correct, and you might be one stop I don't have to make. With that, let's get along with the slides. Next slide, please. The multifamily recycling enforcement. I enforce two laws under Montgomery County for multifamily properties. The first one is, like Eileen has already previously said, it was the ER Executive Regulation 1-15 that deals with the multifamily recycling laws. And that laws, deals with required recycling materials, the annual reporting requirements, the provision of containers and storage space for recycling materials, the labeling requirements, and also the collector licenses requirements. I also enforce the Montgomery County Code, Chapter 48, solid waste laws, which deals with things like overflowing containers resulting in waste on the ground, unlawful containers, and storage area requirements. Next slide, please. So what are my tools of enforcement in the enforcement program that I work with? The first one is a verbal warning. So when I come out to your property, if I get a complaint, usually a verbal warning would be something that's minor. An example of a verbal warning would be like if you got worn out labels, recycling labels on your recycling containers, or if you don't have none or the proper ones, something that I feel that we can address and can be fixed without me doing paperwork on you. So that would be a verbal warning on the recycling end. As far as the solid waste, sometimes I come out to properties and I know a lot of times they got kids that bring out the trash, and I might see 1 or 2 bags on the ground. So I might give the property office a call saying, listen, I was out at your property today and I seen, 2 bags of trash garbage on the ground. Have one of your guys, your maintenance staff, make sure they put it in the trash. So that's something like a verbal warning, something simple that I know that can be fixed real quick. The next tool is a notice of violation, and that's what you see on the right-hand side. This is our official warning notice. And we have, you can get up to a maximum of 14 business days to comply. So what that means is that I could give you anywhere, this is official notice, and I can give you anywhere from 24 hours to 14 days to make sure you fix the violation, you correct it, and you come in compliance of this violation. Now, a lot of times, I won't do the 14 days. A lot of times it'll be anywhere from 3 to 5, but sometimes if I have something that deals with the health or, road issues or something that I see is serious, I will do 24 hours. So there could be a mix of anywhere, but the notice of violation that I mainly want to make sure you know is that is the official one, official notice, warning notice. After that, if you still didn't comply, after I explain everything to you, the notice of violation, I will issue a citation. And on the notice of violation, we do have, I will explain to you that I will tell you in 3 days, if you don't do it, this could be a Class A violation, which could be $500. So I will issue a citation where compliance is ordered and mandatory fine must be paid, or you can appear in court, so you can have your day in court and you can explain to the judge why you feel that I should have been issuing a citation. Non-compliance with the citation can result in doubling of fines plus court costs. So what that means is if you don't ask for a trial or you don't show up, then they will double the fine and get plus court costs. Then the violations, the citation violation fines are for Class A's, with the Chapter 48, the solid waste falls under, are $500 to start off, and can go up to $750 per day after that. The Class B violations, which the ER 1-15 recycling falls under, those are $100 the first time, and then can go up $150 per day after that. So I just want everybody to make sure that, we can go up, per day. People sometimes think that, okay, it's only $100. No, it can go up to $150 per day after that. But for some reason, after I issue the citation and we still got an issue and there's still, you still have a compliance issue and you're not correcting the violation, I will ask for an abatement order. Now, an abatement order is a judge's order to comply. So to give you examples, say like we had a complaint about overflowing recycling, you don't have enough capacity. I go out there, I explain it to you. I said, either you need the, more containers or more collections. And I come back, I say, I gave you 7 days. I come back, to follow up, and it's still an issue. I'm still seeing overflowing. So, and you still haven't complied, I will issue a second citation, but on that second citation, 150, and I feel like if you're not, basically trying to correct this violation, I will ask for an abatement order. And that's when it goes to the judge's order to comply. And the reason why we need this tool is because I run across some folks, I'm pretty sure it's nobody here because everybody here is going to do great because they listen to Crutch right now. But I have run across some folks who think just doing a $100 fine is just the cost of doing business. So on that abatement order, usually a judge, I'll ask the judge who will give you 30 days to comply with the abatement order. But the good thing about it is I can increase that fine. I can ask for up to $1,000 fine for that. So things get pretty serious from that. Not only is it a judge's order, but I can increase the fine. So after that step, if we happen to go to the next one, which is called a show cause order, and that's expedite the contempt of hearing. Hold on a second. Expedites the contempt of court hearing. What that is after the abatement order and you still haven't complied, I can go back and ask the judge to ask for a show cause order where we would bring you in and you would have to explain to the judge, why you didn't comply with the abatement order, which can result in a contempt of court. Now, saying all that, I would let everybody know that 99% of everything I do, it usually gets resolved through the citation. A lot of it don't even go to the citation. Usually after the notice of violation, I can get people to do what they need to do. But after citation, very seldom. I have had to do abatement orders, but it's very, very seldom. We usually don't get to that point. And have done a show cause order. And I always tell people when I used to do this, You know, it wasn't in recycling on multifamily property, but I have seen somebody get locked up for a weekend because they didn't want to, you know, comply by the abatement order. Next slide, please. Are we on the next slide? Thank you. What is an investigation process? What do I do when I come out to your property? Like I said before, the first thing I do, I'm going to investigate. Now, you know, what was the complaint about? What was going on? So then after I investigate and see with my own eyes and see what's going on, then I'll determine the appropriate action. Like I said, is it going to be a verbal? Am I going to do a notice of violation? And then after that, after I explain all that to you, I'm going to assure that, you know, you understand what you need to do to get full compliance. And after all that, I'm going to be coming back. I'm going to actively monitor all cases for continued compliance. So if I do issue a notice of violation, you clear it up and you say, Keith, I did what I was supposed to do. I'm saying, that's great. But I will let you know, I'm going to come back. You know, a lot of times I might do it, you know, for a couple of months, you know, on a weekly basis, but I will follow through and I will actively monitor, you know, the cases for continued compliance. Next slide, please. So this slide here just is basically showing you some of the numbers that we've done from fiscal year 2018 to fiscal year 2021. And these are all multifamily enforcement numbers. So as you can see, it's self-explanatory, the total property visited, you know, from each one. But the interesting thing that I wanted to pull up on this, like it says, you know, 91% of all NOVs, you know, issued to multifamily property resulted in full compliance. So that's basically saying, like I was saying, usually with the NOVs, I can get people in compliance. But if you look at total property visits, like Aline was speaking a little early on, FY20, when COVID hit, you see the numbers went way down. But look below that, look at the total investigation cases. It actually goes up. And then what that tells me is, like I said, now at your properties with people at COVID, a lot of people teleworking, we have a lot of people that are working from home. And I am getting a lot of calls from residents that's letting me know about compliance issues at your property. So that was an interesting number that I just really wanted to point out at this. And we are getting a lot of 311s, a lot of resident complain about compliance issues at properties. But as you can see, the notice of violations, you know, up there, but look at the citations issue. Very seldom it has to go to citation. Next slide, please. Trash, recycled materials on the ground, overflowing containers. This is probably, this and illegal dumping, this is probably one of my biggest complaints. Now, as you can see in these pictures, the top one, you know, this is some of the type of stuff I can see. This should never happen. You know, it was an issue with the collector, but you got to have a backup plan. So what do you need to do? You need to monitor your trash recycling collection areas daily. The biggest issues I have with property management is, you know, I ride up there and I see something like that. I'm like, you got people, I know they're busy doing other things, but you got to keep an eye on your collection sites. You got to keep them clean. This should have never built up like this. You should have had a plan B to be able to get, you know, get this collected. Because this is, like you say, a serious issue with rodents and garbage on the ground. This is something I'm only going to give you 24 hours to get corrected. Increase your number of collection days. If you have an overflowing issue on both trash and recycling, it's only one or two ways to do it. To increase the number of collection days, or you increase the number of collection containers. So you want to increase your capacity or your collection days. But if you know you got that issue, you got to do one or the other. Also, you need to maintain an emergency backup plan for equipment failure or missed collections. So what do I mean by this? Some of y'all have compactors at your property for trash. And that is a big problem we have. Some of them, they break, they have breakdown, they have problems, and they don't have a backup plan, and residents are just putting stuff out on the ground, and, you know, we're getting calls about that. So make sure you got a backup plan for that. You know, have your collector bring you a container out there. And if they do, make sure it's a trash container with a proper lid. A lot of y'all tell them to bring out a roll-off. The only problem with a roll-off, that's meant for bulk trash, and it's an open top. So people putting, you know, trash and garbage in there, then they're having crows and then, you know, having roads, and I'm getting calls on that. So if you do have a backup plan, make sure your collector brings you a proper trash or recycling container with the proper lids on it. Another big thing is the holiday coverage collection for trash and recycling. I get a lot of calls about this. If you have like Monday and Thursday for trash, you know, holiday falls on on a Monday. So if it's a holiday, your last collection was Thursday, a lot of times you won't get collected on that Monday, and sometimes they don't come out Tuesday. So what I ask you is to be cognizant and make sure you have a backup plan for that, or, you know, plan for your holiday coverage. Maybe get a collection on that Saturday, you know, for that Monday that's going to be a holiday. But you got to make sure, because we get a lot of calls about that, and you need to make sure your collector is going to have proper, you know, collection for you during the holidays. Next slide, please. Signage and cleanliness. You know, Eileen already touched on this a lot. You know, it's self-explanatory. Make sure your recycling and trash containers have proper labeling. Areas must be litter-free. Use posters when appropriate. We have available at no additional charge, especially in a lot of your trash and recycling rooms, and, you know, a lot of the high rises or indoors. You know, we have plenty of signage. You know, let your residents know what they need to recycle and what should be trash. And always monitor your area for overflowing issues that, like I said, I spoke earlier. The next slide, please. Recycled materials and trash. This is a big one too. Like I said, we're really trying. We need all your help. Now, something like this, I see this, I'm going to issue a violation, because if you're monitoring, if you got somebody, you know, monitoring the recycling site trash, you see this. This needs to be brought to the attention of your residents and stuff. Now, I don't know if you need to send something out, an email, a blast, but you can get labels off. But it's no way I should see all this recyclable materials in a trash container. And if I do, you got an issue that you need to address your residents. Now, I know it's hard for multifamily because you can't be out there 24/7, but you do have staff out there. Just tell them to keep an eye on it. And this, you know, like you said, this is an ongoing process. You just can't put out recycling materials. I mean, the recycling containers, a recycling program, put the proper labels on and think it's going to run itself. It's an ongoing thing, because you have turnover, you have different cultures, and I know it's hard on y'all, but you have to check, you have to make sure you keep checking and make sure you do the proper monitoring to make sure you're recycling correct. Next slide, please. Bulk trash. Oh, I know a lot of y'all want to talk about this. Bulk trash, you need to plan for it. You know, notify your residents of the options they might have. Establish a storage area. So that could be just like your trash collection sites. Establish a separate site for bulk trash. But if you do, make sure it's proper with concrete flooring, and make sure it's only for bulk trash. I know a lot of properties that have a bulk trash collection area, but when I go in there and check it, I see all kinds of other trash and garbage that's been thrown in there. It should only be bulk trash, not for trash and garbage out in the open. And monitor properly, you know, for some people that might be throwing stuff out there. Now, a lot of it I know is, what the next bullet is illegal dumping. Illegal dumping is a big issue all the way around. So don't feel bad, you know, if your property having it, but you're still going to have to deal with it because it is on your property. If you're having a problem with illegal dumping, we ask people that, you know, minimize the profile of your solid waste area. And that includes, like you say, making a proper, you know, collection site. Don't just have it right out in the open, right by the road where people riding by to see something. You know, make sure you minimize the profile of it. And if you do have a illegal dumping problem, we do have an illegal dumping section where we have an investigator that's all he is assigned to, is illegal dumping complaints. You can call 311 and report the illegal dumping, or you can report the illegal dumping to 311 online, and y'all see that link. I ain't gonna go through all that. But, you know, like I said, you can report the 311, but if you do, I always tell people to make sure if you can get us tag numbers where we can go after folks. But also, you know, you might have to, you know, report to court, you know, if you don't want witnesses, because I didn't witness it, take pictures and tags. But even if you don't want to do that, just still let us know, because we can go after them and give them an NOV, which usually, you know, lets them know that somebody is watching it. But also, like you say, cameras, you know, certain things. But if you call our legal dumping section, and the supervisor, the managers over there is real good, he can give you ideas to try to minimize and to help you out with your illegal dumping problem. Next slide, please. So we save the questions, and then that's my contact information. So, and if you have any questions, for me, just go ahead and email me or give me a call. I'm usually pretty good with my emails, and I will return, email within, not unless I'm real busy, usually within that same day, or give me a call, leave a message. But I'm pretty sure, like I said, I cover the whole county, and I've been doing this a long time, so I know a lot of y'all probably on this call. So, and I try to be fair, and I will work with you, because my goal is, I always tell everyone, I'm not here to give out no fines, no citation. I'm just here to help you make sure you're in compliance and give you the best possible, recycling program and to work with you. So, we're not here, I'm not no cop that, that's give out tickets and making some quotas. That's not my job. My job is to make sure you have a successful recycling as well as a solid waste program on your property. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Miss Ruth.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you for all this great information. And I'm pretty sure most of these participants that are here have heard about you or know about you, so they know how to contact you. But if not, we're going to be providing these slides as well, and the recording is going to be available too if you guys want to, share with somebody else in your communities. My presentation today is about how to keep, what is the importance of, next please, what is the importance of keeping areas clearly labeled and also clean. I know Eileen talked about it a little bit, and also Keith, but I just want to show you some examples that we have and what we have available for you. What can you do to improve signage? And I wanted to use the word you because this is a problem that involves all of us. This is not just the job of the property manager. This is not just the job of the hauler or collector. This is something that is a community. Everybody should be addressing this issue together. And that's why we encourage to have recycling coordinators in your facilities and your properties, green committees, and et cetera. And you're gonna hear about that a little bit in the next presentation. But we all have to always think, what can I do? What can I do to improve this issue, right? When we think like that, we don't start thinking what everybody else should be doing, because it's like in our houses. If we start making smaller improvements, we will see people following our actions, right? So start at the beginning. Whenever you receive new containers, whenever you sign a new contract, ask this hauler, this collector, what are the labels? What are the conditions? Are they going to provide you with new labels? Are they labels bilingual? Do they have clear images? And like Keith was saying, it's necessary to walk these areas at least once a day. Somebody in the property can walk, even you, when you are walking, and if you are a manager and you are giving a tour to a new resident, I'm pretty sure you're going to be embarrassed if you are walking your resident and you see all this trash or this litter everywhere. So those are things that you can prevent by keeping an eye on your size and making sure the things are done at least once a day. At least once a day, just checking the areas and making sure things are tight. Next, please. So signage is something, it's a way of communication. Some people say, why do I have to be caring about labels? Why do I have to do all of this? But this is something that will, at the end, is going to save you time regarding educating your residents. If you use posters, if you use labels, if you make sure things are clean, it's going to be better for you at the end in the long run, because these posters can last, if they are indoors, they can last pretty long time. The stickers also at least 6 months, they should be fine. So if you guys need any of these resources, we have them available at no cost. We spend a lot of time designing them. We are trying to do more pictures now than words. Every single time we're trying to, cut the message through images so it's clear for the residents. The labels, as you see the labels on the bottom, these stickers on this slide, they have actually the word recycle translated into 6 different languages. So if the resident doesn't speak very well English, but they see that there is the word recycle in their own language, they can assume it's easier for them to grasp the idea, okay, this container is for mixed paper, this container is for commingled materials, and I can use it for that. So it's very important to identify your containers, not only as part of the regulation that Keith must enforce, but it's also part of sending a clear message. So having clear communication with your residents. When you guys do the tours for the move-ins, for instance, I'm speaking specifically to the managers, it's very important to tell them, these are our rules, this is what we're doing. You do your part, we do our part, and we expect the residents to do also their part. Like I said at the beginning, this is it's a whole a community working towards the same mission. So ensure these labels can be seen whether the container lid is open or closed. I have seen a lot of containers where the lids end up against a wall or is facing another way, so the sticker or the label is not visible, and then it just appears to be another trash container. So that's why I'm saying it's important to monitor those areas. Make sure people are getting the message. And if you as a resident see anything that is not working, talk to your manager, maybe offer suggestions, maybe offer help. We are not at your properties every time, so we don't see everything that is happening. We can provide you with resources, we can provide you with education, but you as a community, you are there to support each other, to help your manager, to talk, and to also improve your community together. Next, please. Next. So here are other examples of places before that, please. Before they had these labels, the previous one, please, where they have they had labels, so they were in compliance. They had everything labeled with even homemade posters. But maybe a winter storm, a weather situation came that you cannot predict sometimes. And then the stickers are all faded. They are not looking in great conditions anymore. They're not readable anymore. So that's why we recommend at least every 6 months to check with us and request new labels. We're happy to mail them. We're happy to drop off. We have staff in our team that can go and drop it off and help you to get this in better conditions. Like the sticker over there also on the right hand, it looks like it's a very, the yellow sticker, it looks like very tiny images. The letters are also very small. So those, although they are helpful, they're not the most efficient. So we really recommend you to use labels that have, clear images and bigger stickers. If you don't want to use our stickers, that's okay. We don't get mad at that. We don't get sad, but you use at least stickers that are really clear and preferable bilingual. Next, please. So in our next slide, you see another example. So recycling and trash container, they all should be labeled. They must be labeled all the times. There are many containers. We have also trash only posters. We have no plastic bag stickers, and they are available for you. I know many places in other counties, in other ways, they don't provide this or they will charge you. But you guys are lucky, or I will say you guys are able to request all these things at no cost. Like I said, we are happy to help you with any of these labeling because we know they get, faded, and with the weather, they're gonna start losing their colors, changing colors, and then you don't know what is written in there anymore. There's another example here for the scrap metal recycling containers. Yes, we do recycle scrap metal, and that's one of the requirements for multifamilies. So here is a clear example of how to label a collection area for a scrap metal. Next, please. Another example, how to keep areas clean. So that's what I'm pretty sure Keith would love to see when he goes there, and any of us. So there's no litter, and the floors are clean, and the lids, the containers are labeled as well. Next, please. So now, what are the common types of contaminations in recycling? These are some of the items that we see more often. These materials can be food, organics, tissues, paper towels, plastic bags, film is a big one, batteries, polystyrene, Signage, and you can see that this happens often and often. So that's why it's so important to keep educating your residents, keep reminding them that we do not accept any of this. Batteries, for instance, they pose a great fire hazard. So you don't want to keep those neither in the trash or in the recycling bins. Syringes are also a hazardous waste. In this picture, the lower picture was taken by one of our program specialists, and you see she found a container full of syringes and medical supplies in this milk container. So this is something that could be avoided if we are monitoring our areas and reviewing, talking. My suggestion is that if you guys have meetings with your staff or newsletters, include those topics. These are important to keep at least once a month, reminding them how to avoid this contamination in the recycling. Next, please. So to reduce contamination, we discussed that it's important to have clear labels, to educate your residents, and also to inform your maintenance crews. Many people come and go. I know the maintenance crews not always are there forever. So make sure you're requesting information for them or training them. We can also help you to train your staff and ask them to, if they see anything wrong, to let you know, so you can make improvements and changes soon before it becomes, out of control. So know what is going into your bins, walk your property, check enclosures and collection rooms, talk to staff about what they are seeing. The recycling areas, so the trash room, should not be in a scary place where nobody wants to go and where there are, rodents or hazards, stuff like that. It should be a welcoming environment, a welcoming place where people just go, get rid of the stuff easily. They see easily where to put every single thing. There are no odors, there's no smells, and things are working fine. So this is just housekeeping, best practices, I guess, best practices for waste management. And it's our responsibility to keep it like that, to keep everybody protected and to provide them with a nice environment. So they can say, our house, our community is good. We are doing what it takes to keep it clean. Next, please. Possible solution to some of these overflowing issues and contaminations is to use balers for cardboard. As you see in the picture, the balers takes a lot less space than a cardboard dumpster. So here they stay compacted and reduce the space that you would require for storage. Next, please. Another great idea will be to have collection bins for plastic bags. Most grocery local grocery stores take these clean plastic bags for recycling. But if you don't have one container like this that is clearly labeled, it will be very hard for residents to recycle plastic bags. Although this is voluntary, it's a voluntary item that you can recycle. This will help you to keep these plastic bags away from the recycling bins. Next, please. So like I said, you may ask a volunteer to take those plastic bags to a grocery store and reward those that are doing right. Take photos of contamination, request locking dumpsters from haulers, that those are available. You see that container on the bottom. The only thing with those containers is that you want to make sure you have containers also for commingled materials, because this one is clearly used only for cardboard or paper. So I had seen places where they had replaced and they just put this dumpster here and they forget about the commingled materials. So remember, those are also supposed to be recycled. So you need to have a container for commingled materials as well, as this one is only for paper and cardboard. Next, please. Same, install or upgrade locking enclosures outside. Hold your residents accountable. So make sure you can, explaining of the possible fines, the possible violation that the property may incur if they don't do their part and they don't take also action and do their part. Next. So here is my contact information. As you probably already noticed, I am bilingual in Spanish. So if you have any issues with your Spanish residents or with your Spanish crews and you cannot communicate well, we are here to help you. We are here to assess those issues. We can have events in Spanish, or we can have outreach material sent to you in Spanish. We already have, in the next presentation, you will see that we have more available information for you in different languages. Thank you. And now I am pleased to announce Renee Johnson. Renee is a program specialist too with the multifamily recycling program track for the Montgomery County Department of Environmental Protection. She joined the Recycling and Resource Management Division in January 2019. Prior to joining the track team, Renee worked for the city of Los Angeles as an environmental compliance specialist, implementing the Zero Waste program for multifamily and business owners. Please help me to welcome Renee Johnson.
Thank you so much, Ruth. So today I will be quickly going over the different types of education that we can provide to your residents, as well as your staff at your properties. So what can you do to improve recycling at your communities? So the first really is just the introduction. You have residents that are just moving in. It's really important to kind of tell them what bins are for what, what are your expectations on your community? Do you allow, cardboard to be put down a chute? Do you want it placed separately? This is your chance to really, model your program to the residents. Communication, we've talked a lot about signage. Signage is almost like 24/7 education without you having to be there. And then education specifically. So, we can come out and we can talk to the residents about how to recycle properly in Montgomery County. Next slide. So orientation for new move-ins. So again, this is your opportunity to kind of set the standards. You can tell the residents exactly where the bins are located. Some properties have bins that are color-coded, like black is for trash, blue is for recycling. Some properties don't have recycling on every floor where trash is dumped just because there's not enough space. So telling the residents, hey, we don't have a bin on your floor, but you can recycle, in the loading dock, or you can recycle in our container that's outside. All of this is going to help your property run very smoothly. Definitely provide information like brochures, magnets, some of the images that you see here. These are all things that we can deliver to you, so you can kind of give these orientations for new move-ins. We do have these brochures in 11 different languages. And yes, as it says here, try to give each resident a bin. This is just to ensure that there's no plastic bags that are being put in the recycling. Sometimes when the residents move out, they'll take these bins with them, but no worries, we have a ton of recycling bins to give out. And I think the web store was posted somewhere in the chat. So this is how you can request some of these materials to provide a good orientation for new move-ins. So direct communication, the signage is good. It's very helpful, as well as giving out brochures. But communication really needs to happen on a regular basis. So there's a number of ways that you can do that. You can send out a newsletter via email. If your residents follow your property on social media, this is another good way to get their attention. Again, it's very important just to continuously remind the residents how to do things properly. Here in the photo, we have someone that went around and put door tags on every door. That is also a possibility. They're in 5 different languages. Some residents may not use email. You may not send out newsletters. So again, this is another way that you can make sure that all of your residents are getting this communication. If you have bulletin boards posted throughout the buildings, you can post our brochures there. I've seen a lot of property managers create their own information, because it's more specific to each community. Next slide. We also do presentations. So we have been doing a lot of things via Zoom or Teams just because of the pandemic, but now we are going back on site and doing presentations in person. I think the presentation format is really the best way to educate residents, just because you have that face-to-face interaction. It does have a really good impact on retention of information. These presentations also can be flexible. You have your residents there, you may have your staff there, they can ask questions, whatever really fits the needs of that actual audience that we're presenting to. I often have presentations where residents have saved materials that they were confused about, and they'll ask me directly, like, what do I do with this? And there's some questions that, someone that was in attendance didn't even know to ask. So that's why I really like the presentation format. Everyone kind of benefits from this open communication and bringing up different issues and topics. Another way that we can educate your residents is through tabling. So our education tables, they're usually set up in accordance with an event that you're already having on site. So, I've been to the Birch's apartment. They always have like a fire safety day, and they'll bring out like the fire department, they'll bring out our department, and maybe sometimes there's like an internet provider there, and that's just a different way to kind of get your residents to come out. So maybe a presentation didn't really interest them, but because now you have all these different vendors coming on site and we're doing giveaways and things like that, that's a good opportunity to catch those residents that aren't going to read the brochures or that aren't necessarily paying attention to the other ways that you've tried to communicate to them. This is really good too, because I can talk to someone one-on-one. Maybe someone's like too nervous or too shy to get their questions answered in a presentation. I can talk to them, on the side. It's a lot less formal, again, so I feel like folks are more comfortable approaching and, asking questions about recycling in this format. We also do staff training. It's not all just about the residents, right? If you have a large maintenance team or, office personnel, janitorial crew, we can give a one-on-one training in English or Spanish. We do recommend that you do these trainings every 6 months, just because multifamily properties have so much turnover. But this is important because it'll empower your staff to answer questions that the residents may have, right? I think that goes a long way when you're just, not constantly deferring them to us, but if your staff can also help answer some of these questions, your programs will run more smoothly at your property. So some other ideas, I did see, a comment in the chat that the property managers can't be everywhere at once. And I agree with that. There's a lot of different things that are happening at multifamily properties on a daily basis. I have seen a lot of green teams that have been started by residents really improve the recycling programs. These green teams can be one person if you have a small property. It could be an entire organization, of like maybe 10 people. I've seen it in a lot of different formats, but it definitely takes pressure off of the property management team. And your residents are constantly pointing out things like, oh, what about this? Or why is this happening? Empower those residents to, start a green team and they can, have some ability to be trained by us, or they can organize events. They can put up things on each floor to the residents. All of these things are going to help. Like Ruth mentioned, it's like a team commitment, right? It's the county. We're going to provide you with all of the brochures and all of the bins that you need. Your residents, if you can't walk the property every day, your residents are there, they're seeing things. And then also with the property management office, you can hold these residents accountable. You can hire staff that can make sure things are orderly. So yeah, it does take a lot, but there are a ton of resources available. Also, I have here partner with other haulers or collectors for certain items like bulk trash, electronics. These are all things that sometimes fall through the cracks. So like Keith said, make a plan for these items. And then lastly, just recognize residents in buildings that are doing a good job. You don't want to constantly focus on what people are doing wrong. It does really go a long way when you are just telling people that they've done a good job. So that is the end of my presentation. I do want to provide my cell number. I'm responsible for doing education throughout the county, so please feel free to contact me and I can come out and do some of these services. My email is also provided here. If you're having an issue ordering things on the web store, you can contact me directly and I can get, any brochures, any posters or labels or bins delivered to your property. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renee, for helping us with the understanding how to educate residents and staff on multifamily properties. Our final speaker is our guest speaker, Tammy Mclaren from Normandy on the Lake 1. And Tammy is the property manager for Normandy on the Lake 1. She was born in Vermont and raised in Maine. She came to Maryland almost 20 years ago, care of the U.S. Navy, where she raised 5 children. She has been in the property management industry for almost 10 years. She fell into the field from being offered a part-time job to help in an on-site office with the community association services in the villages of Urbana HOA, moving to full-time after earning the Certificate of Manager of Community Associations, CMCA. She took her current role at the Normandy in January of 2017. Her mission there is to create a sense of community. Since starting her current position, she considers it thrilling to introduce people who have been neighbors, but they didn't know each other before and they may have been close to each other. She's trying to increase the sense of community, not just their condo unit, but their building, and finally the entire community. Her common sense drives her to think twice before just throwing something away. And so she makes it a priority to educate condo unit owners and renters on donating and repurposing items to give back, because she believes that when one gives back on a small scale, it branches out. Please help me to welcome Ms. Mclaren. Thank you, Tammy.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
All right. Not sure why the video didn't start. I'd like to say thank you, everybody, and thanks for inviting me. I want to say when I came to Normandy on the Lake, we had many trash and recycle challenges. The first issue I encountered was meeting Mr. Crashfield. Keith came into my office and said, "Hey, you're missing some paperwork." And I had only been here for a few weeks. And I looked at him and said, "I'm not sure what you're talking about." So part of being here was to educate myself and what Montgomery County standards are. I had also owned a home here, so I know that we have a high rate of recycle. And after I self-educated myself, I continue always to pass on the information to our property here at Normandy. I have a very diverse background of people here. Not everybody is familiar with recycling, so that creates a challenge on a daily basis. And we are garden style apartments with trash rooms and recycle that is located in the basements. And all of the things that you guys have discussed are things that we try to do, keep them clean, inviting. One of the things that I have done here is we have blue cans for recycling, and they are located on the right, and gray ones on the left. People know that trash should go into the gray containers and the recycling should go into the blue containers. From the get-go, when people move in here, I try to educate them how we recycle here and our trash. What happens is that people come into the office and they'll ask various questions. Most people forget what you tell them upon a first meeting. So as a couple of the presenters said, you have to always do continuing education. And I do that. And one of the things where it's paid off in our community is that people have a sense of community now, and they don't like the property to look horrible. They take pride in their trash rooms and that my guys keep them clean. They take and do everything to keep the property neat. Next slide, please. So one of the other things that I provide is a sense of connections, as I was saying. And so when the property is running smoothly and people don't see trash all over and, you know, they're recycling, they're very happy, and it makes them give out to others. So one of the other problems here on my community was we used to have illegal dumping. Can you do next slide, please? So one of the challenges of illegal dumping was that items would just appear anywhere on the property. But since I have come back here, come to the property, I polled residents to find out an answer to this challenge and the solution. So I offer twice a year a bulk pickup. I always coincide it with spring cleanup or a holiday so that people want to clean out their houses. And I do this in the fall as well. What happens is people put out items about from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. the next day. What's wonderful about this is many people will also put out items they're not sure of if they still have a purpose. And about 50% of the items get reclaimed by other members of the community and they have a new home. This keeps a lot of things out of the solid waste stream, which cuts down on the trash that we are having taken to the landfill at Shady Grove. Next slide. One of the things about creating a sense of community is here, when I've educated the residents about giving back, it used to be a lot of things ended up in the trash room, things that shouldn't be in there, food, books, paint, which cannot go in there, furniture that people would just dump. So by community sense of awareness, I have educated people about giving food if they're moving to the food banks. I sometimes keep it in the office for residents too. Residents have been known, especially during COVID, we had a few families that weren't quite making it. So they knew they could reach out if they needed something. I do that with pet food too. Sometimes you realize that people are having a hard time and I drop it off. with the sense of community too, they'll ask me, you know, what can I do with this furniture? I have a set and I'm getting a new set. And I'll say, you know, is it in good condition or whatever? And we find a purpose for it. We donate to Salvation Army or Goodwill, or I've had a couple families who needed things, and the community, we match them up. I call myself Radar O'Reilly. With the books and magazines, we've brought the books. They can bring them to the office, and I bring them to like AAUW. I've donated the magazines and stuff for art programs at the school. Paint, which is a really hard item to get rid of, and they were being just put in trash rooms where they're not supposed to be. So we'll collect good paint, and I reach out to schools and the theater departments and see if they can use it. And a lot of times they will take it for set design. Next slide. This dining room set here is an example of, we had a resident who passed away, and they had a whole beautiful 3-bedroom apartment filled with furniture, and all of it was going to end up in the dump. And they had hired a junk company to come, but then they reached out to me, and in the end, we probably saved about 4,000 pounds of stuff from going into the landfill, and repurposed it. I think that what happens is, it is hard sometimes for people to recycle and stuff, but you each can do your own part with little things. And as I said, by talking to residents, continually educating them, taking and matching them up with programs, this helps to keep a property in a community nice and clean, and makes it so that you don't get visited with violations. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak today. And if anybody wants to reach out to me or implement programs, I'm happy to give you resources of places in the community in Montgomery County that can use things.
Thank you, Dami, and thank you all the presenters for spending today the time and the effort to teach and to educate the multifamily community. We don't really have much time for questions, as we are ending at 2:30 the webinar, but we would like to address some of the issues brought in the chat. So I'm going to turn it over to Eileen Cow, and she will help us to address some of these comments and concerns. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth. So I think in the chat there was a question regarding locking containers, locking lids, and whether or not we have any requirement, or if we're contemplating making it a requirement for collectors to provide containers with locking lids. I think that was the gist of one of the questions. And we at this point had not been contemplating making it a mandate that the containers that collectors provide all have locks on them. I think that's what you're asking. Many, if not most of the collectors do, if you talk with them and you have a situation where you either have people inappropriately using your containers, or people from outside your property coming onto your property and using your containers illegally, then my strong suggestion would be that you talk with your collector and you have that conversation whether or not they can provide to you dumpsters or containers that have locking mechanisms on them. Oftentimes, if you're experiencing that issue and you speak with the collector that you have, they hopefully they have those types of containers or mechanisms, locking mechanisms to offer you. If not, you can contact us. We certainly have additional information about other collectors that would offer containers with locking lids. I hope that answers the question. If not, just put that in the chat, please, if that doesn't, if I've anticipated a little bit off what your question was. The other thing I wanted to address, we have several comments that were put in the chat from Lisa. And, you know, I think just, I'm not going to take them one by one because there were quite a number of comments. But I would say this, that as, you know, as Ruth talked about or touched on, this really is a shared responsibility. Recycling is not an option in Montgomery County. Recycling is a mandate in Montgomery County, at least for specific materials. So this is not a voluntary thing. This is not an optional thing. However, we really are so committed to helping the community to succeed in their waste reduction and recycling efforts that we actually have a very fulsome program. The program that we offer, as you've heard today, it consists of outreach, education, technical assistance, support, and guidance. It also does have a component that is enforcement via our investigators. But we are here to work with you as partners in this effort. We cannot, with 700, almost 800 properties in the county, and 140,000 dwelling units at all of those properties combined, we can't do it for any particular property. So it is a shared responsibility between the property owners, the property managers acting on the owner's behalf, the county, of course, but also anyone that you bring into that kind of chain of custody of your materials, including the collectors. Everyone has a responsibility. Residents, individual residents also have responsibilities to do the right thing. So, you know, we have support, we have initiatives or efforts that we can apply to every person that has a part in that chain of custody for successful recycling. So if you do have specific issues or specific complications or I guess links in that chain of custody that are causing problems, talk to us. We can certainly help you to address the appropriate party that's making the steps in successful recycling problematic.
Eileen, thank you for addressing those questions. We want to again thank everyone for joining us for today's webinar. Before everyone leaves, just want to do a quick reminder that the webinar will be posted on our website, and for information regarding the multifamily recycling and waste reduction program, as well as links to all the resources that Ruth had mentioned, please visit our website at montgomerycountymd.gov/recycle right, and you can click on the link for recycle at apartments and condos.